Greetings, TLP here. What I have for you today is I'm going to attempt to make a follower. When I first started gutting and picking locks, I didn't have a proper follower. So I was using what I had available. This thing came in handy, a piece of aluminum hollow tubing of some sort. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this is, but it's got a hole on either side. So I'm assuming, and I've got a couple of these, and they were all the same length. And I'm assuming that it perhaps was part of a wind chime. But no matter, it's almost the perfect diameter. Now, there is a little tolerance in there, but it's not enough that it would cause the springs to push out the driver pins to be lost, which is the point of the follower, right? And I've been using this, and I've also been using this. Now, I'm not sure what this is either. Like I said, I've got a huge garage, and I'm constantly going stuff. This is a house of my other half's grandfather, I believe. May have been her great-grandfather. I think it was her grandfather who built this house. And it's been passed down. And there's a shop and, a garage down here. And I'm constantly going through, finding stuff, improvising, lock sport type tools or whatever. But I was using this for a little while. I think it looks like part of a trailer hitch, where you'd slide it in and the cotter pin would hold it in place at the bottom. But it's obviously not being used for that purpose anymore. I have commandeered it, if you will, to be a follower. Now this one, it goes in there, and it's got a little tolerance, but it's less tolerance than this piece of aluminum. And I've been using it. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to attempt to make this, and I'm going to cut it right here. Let's see. Let's zoom in just a little bit, and perhaps I can explain what I'm going to do here. I mean, it'll make sense for anybody who knows what a follower is. But right here where this hole is, I'm going to attempt to cut this side of it off and still leave a little bit more than half of this hole there. So that hole will act as the equivalent of this groove on the end, if that makes sense. And then I'm most likely going to also dispose of this head, saw it off. That's why it's just one long piece. And I'll buff up once I do it, I'll probably buff it up, smooth it up a little bit to get any of the, burrs off of it or whatever. But that's what we're going to do today. And hopefully this won't be too difficult. But let's go get it set up, and we'll see if we can't show you exactly what I'm talking about doing. All right, give us just a second. Okay, we got it mounted in the vise. Let's torque it down so we don't get any movement. Alright, there we go. Now hopefully the vibration of this is not going to shake the camera too much, because I do have the camera sitting on top of the workbench. But we're going to try to do this, and we're going to see how well this works. And with that said, I say sorry for the noise. It's slipping a little bit, so let's adjust this, which I figured this would happen. Alright, let's continue on. We got it cut. Now it's gonna be hot. Now if we look, that bottom piece right there. All right, let's take it back. See what we got. All right, folks, I have decided it's official. I am unofficially changing the name from Tyndall Lock Picker to Booger Picker. Why? Because we booger up everything we do here. And that's the fun in it. We booger it up, but then we come back and we fix it. Ain't that the rule in life? But we can see where this is the side I started cutting on. We can see it's not completely square. It's not wanting to focus. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can get this a little bit better here. We'll put it up here like this. But that's the side I started cutting on. And that is potentially what I wanted. But if you look at it, you can see that it's not completely squared. And we roll over on the other end. You see what I'm saying? But that's okay. That's what the grinder's for. We just wanted to get the end off. I'll come back and I'll shape it up, polish it up, and it'll look decent. I ain't gonna say it'll look perfect. It may not even look good, but it'll look decent, and it will serve the purpose once I get done. But like everything else, this is Booger Picker. I mean TLP. But let's go run this over the grinder and let's see what we end up with. All right, folks. All right, we done. Here's the aluminum one. No big deal. I just cut it off, put a grinder on the end, you know, kind of smoothed it out a little bit, evened it up, and just put a hand file on it. Then I run it through a buffer. That's it. No big deal. Both ends. Okay, there's that. Now the other one, that's the one that buggered me up. You saw in the bicycle, kept wanting to slip and all that. But here's the end. Here's the head that was on here. You can see how jagged all that is. Well, I cut it off, put it on a grinder, and smoothed the top down. Tried to get it, you know, square on a right angle best I could. I didn't put no measuring, no square or anything on it. I mean, this is not a precision tool. But I ground it down to get it even, put a hand, a hand file on it, and just smoothed it up, got rid of the burrs. And then I put it on a buffer, just buffed it up to give it a good shine so it would look good. Now, the other one, let's first look at the old follower. We see how the groove in it is at a right angle. Okay? Now, for those of you who know, sometimes trying to get the spring and the driver pin down into the hole, this groove does not help. I mean, it helps, but it could be better. Because this doesn't perfectly line up with that hole. So you still have to take your tweezers and manipulate that spring and that driver pin to get them in that hole. Now, for any of you who know, have heard of what's known as the easy follower. It, instead of having a right angle like this, it's got a V-shaped groove, which leads more to facilitating the pin and the spring going into the hole. It also, now this is something I couldn't do, but it also has a little spring-loaded ball bearing, which helps keep it inside the mechanism. That ball bearing will sit in the hole, one of the preceding holes, and it holds the follower in place as the groove helps you get the spring and the pin in. And then you just pull it back and it slips that ball bearing out of the way, and then it pops into the next hole. Makes sense? Any of you own one or have heard of one, you know what I'm talking about. If I can think about it, if I can find it, I'll leave the link to where, you know, one of those easy followers can be purchased in the description below. But for that, here's the finished product. We saw how boogered up it was when I first cut it. Where's the end? Here's the end that I cut off of it. And I left the hole that was going through that. I left that there, and I used it as a guide, as a starting point for this groove. We see how the groove is it's a V-shaped groove on both sides. Now, it may not be perfect, but all I did is put it to the grinder, and I ground that groove down and made it a little bit, instead of it being rounded like it was, like the round hole that went through there, I ground it down to a V shape with the grinder, and I flattened out the end and everything like that, and tried to get it shaped symmetrical the best I could. You know, I didn't use any measurements or anything. I just dead-eye-darrelled it, put it straight in there and did it. Then I took a hand file, square hand file, and put it in there and kind of made this groove just a little bit more pronounced. And you know, obviously I filed it down and everything and rounded the corners off, so there wouldn't be no grooves, no sharp edges on anywhere. And then again, like anything, I put it on a buffer. You know, buffed it out a little bit so it'd give it a good shine, and it looked good. Now, I haven't used it yet, so I can't speak to how well this thing's going to work. But just by looking at it, I think it's going to do pretty good. But with that said, that's all I have for you today. You know, a lot of the things we do in lock sport, improvise. Some of the best tools out there started off as somebody improvising them. But I'll be done with that. And as always, I'll say, keep it safe, keep it legal, and good picking. TLP out.